Good morning, councillors. We'll continue on stage 3 this morning and also on to Friday. And as Councillor Buck has said, we start with the Barnetts crossing building, and then we'll move on into continuing to the end of all of the resolutions for the Natural and Cultural Heritage chapter. And then we'll move into the questions that we received last week from you, and we'll give you some responses for that. If there's any further time after that, we can move into more resolutions and take them through from Friday. So over to you, Caroline.
Good morning. So in terms of the first question on the Arthur Barnetts building, you would have received a set of handouts. So I'll just quickly talk you through what they are. The first one is Appendix 1A from the operative city plan, and that just sets out what the current listing of that building is. And the second one is a statement of significance, one with an image on it, and that's Amanda will be able to talk to that in more detail if need be. That describes why this place is met the significance threshold for listing and particular details about it. And then the third one is a map, and that's the aerial map that would go on the district plan, and that shows the outline of the building that is proposed to be protected at number 90. So that's hopefully quite clear. It sits right in the middle of the page. So you were interested to know, find out more about the building, what impact will the proposed scheduling have, and what are the plans on the site effectively? Pardon? Okay, would you like me to talk through what we've found and what information we can provide to you? So there's currently a certificate of compliance in for earthquake investigations, and that's got a further information request on it at the moment. That's for investigative works around earthquake matters. And then the second application, and at the moment within requests for further information, just gone out is for a signage application, and that was triggered because of non-compliances with urban design rules, heritage rules.
The first application for me?
The first application is a certificate of compliance for earthquake investigations. So yeah, that's in with the heritage team at the moment. We can talk in more detail of that if need be. So just briefly on what's in terms of the impact of the development, Amanda will be able to talk to you about the detail of why the place has been recognised as significant, but if I could just briefly let you know that effectively the proposed building is already on the list, so what has been proposed is an increase in the extent of the listing. So what that would mean that an application would be required for works to the building. So we're aware of that, yes, there would be an impact, but it would be like any other development on a case-by-case assessment, and understand there are development plans for the whole of the block. That I'm aware of that through, I'm aware there's a website link, for instance, but other than that, it would be, developers' information as to what they're proposing. So all I can say is that we've got those two development proposals in at the moment. Would you like Amanda perhaps to talk through the significance threshold? Is that right, Amanda?
Yes, so the building as a whole meets the threshold, the interior and the exterior. We do consider there's still heritage fabric on the interior. There's a marble-lined staircase. There was some original plasterwork remaining. I haven't been through the building since the earthquake, so I'm not aware of the extent of damage to that plasterwork. And it's to have a consistent approach across the whole of our listings and a consistent methodology. It's our preference to list the building as a whole, interior and exterior. Any new rules would impact changes to heritage fabric only. So what's already been changed or lost, replaced with new, we're not worried about. And resource consent would be required for alterations to the exterior anyway for this new development. So to have the remaining interior features listed, it doesn't actually add an additional consent requirement. It gives...
May not add a requirement to apply for an additional consent, but it does add a resource consent requirement. Surely that's correct.
Yes.
Vicky?
Because I actually asked the developer what this would do if we went ahead with this, and his comment is it would just absolutely stuff us up. It's a real struggle with all the moving parts at the moment, and we just do not need any distractions whatsoever. I know the building very well because we put a school in there. We altered the building the interior of it quite significantly. In terms of the accessibility of this building on that staircase, in terms of a barrier-free city, it needs a lift. There is a lift that goes up from the car park up into the school area because that was essential. There is no capacity in the current building for people to access by wheelchair. I don't know what survived post-earthquake. Some of those ceilings were interesting, but I don't know if they're there. You don't know if they're there. The exterior of this building has been protected for quite some time. So when we did the school on top of it, for example, we had to comply with the heritage rules. Not a problem. And the look and feel of the building on the outside is important. But we have a development going in there that is a major, major development. There are other imperatives and time-wise for that developer that we're very aware of, and we simply cannot do this to another developer in the central city. You said you hadn't been through the building since the earthquake, so we don't even know what's left to actually protect. But what we want for this building, more than anything, I like the building, I think it's a lovely building, but what we want for it is that it's a lively heart to a retail precinct of the city. And I want that far more than a ceiling which may or may not have survived the earthquake. I know that building was incredibly bumpy in the earthquake, so I don't know what survived. I know all the kids in there did, but this would just be unbelievable.
So do we have, in terms of its current status, why would we list without a present day analysis? I mean, a post-earthquake analysis. Why would we do that?
Well, we've done that to the best of our abilities based on the information we have.
So, well, I mean, surely someone's been in the building. So, does anyone know what its condition is? I mean, we may be protecting something that's already gone.
Well, it's likely that the heritage fabric has been damaged to some extent, but it's not likely that it's totally been obliterated on the interior.
No, but the significance of the repair and the strategy around that may in fact hold up the entire development of that whole block.
And the ability to redesign this, because this all gets redesigned, or some parts of it get redesigned. It needs lift access, which will make quite a big difference to the building. And we just completely stuff the major central city development. There's no way in hell I can, in any way, I can vote for this.
I'm not sure if you've read the policies, which are quite strong on the need for heritage buildings to adapt to modern requirements and code compliance. They're very enabling in that respect, and the rules that we're proposing are enabling of change and safety and accessibility
But what we
requirements.
do, at the same time as we have a time limit on this developer, we impose a whole nother set of rules. This is a developer who's actually sponsored Heritage Week for a number of years, is actually acutely aware of the significance of the externals of the building, has planned around that, has been planning this development for, a year, 18 months, and now suddenly, in the middle of it, we put a designation over the whole interior of a building without seeing it.
There are certain elements of the agreement that we have in relation to this matter which are not yet public. So I just want to be a little bit cautious about some of this discussion in the public arena, not not to put too fine a point on it, I'd like to take some legal advice before we go any further on this matter.
Well, whatever the situation is with that, and I'm quite clear that we won't mention that in public, but there is no way, partway through a development that we're aware of, that we should be putting a new restriction over the entire interior of a building we haven't seen the inside of. That's unconscionable.
But I think that there are some issues that we need to take some advice on, and I'd rather take that offline if you don't mind. Yanni?
I just think you need to understand what staff have done in terms of our heritage. So what they've
No, I'm not going to have this discussion.
Well, why? Everyone else has got to comment.
No. The point that I'm making is that I want to take some advice and I want to take this offline.
Okay.
I'm not prepared to have this scheduled resolution put at this time.
So
we can defer this matter until Friday, and we can take some advice in the meantime.
On Friday. Yep.
Sorry?
So the idea is that we come back on Friday and discuss
Hopefully we'll be in a position to discuss it on Friday, but I'm not prepared to put this resolution today.
Okay.
I want to take some advice and I'll talk to you about that.
That's fine.
Because there are issues that the Deputy Mayor has raised that you may not be aware of.
Right, and there are also implications for potentially other heritage buildings as well.
Great. So can we ask, is it possible then, if it's coming back on Friday, that we get staff to do a site visit, given that that was one of the concerns?
To do?
A site visit.
No. Yeah. Anyway, the thing is that there are other issues in relation to this particular
I understand
matter.
that. The point that was made was how can you list a building that you haven't seen the inside of, which I think is a valid point.
Well, no, all this report has been done without seeing the inside of it. The major point is that we do not want the interior of this building to have to go through any more hurdles. We actually want some retail in the retail heart of our city.
Okay,
It would be
we might
really
have a different
nice.
view, but the point is that we actually don't know what the state of the interior is, and we're being asked to list it. So I think it's perfectly reasonable to ask if we can go and cite the interior.
Anyway, there are a number of steps that we can take in a relatively short period of time, but I want some legal advice because I'm a little bit concerned about the situation that we may find ourselves in.
Yes, that's
Right.
fine.
Thank you.
We'll do that on Friday.
Good.
So if I could ask that we could continue to the end of the resolutions for the Natural and Cultural Heritage chapter, since we're on that chapter.
Okay. Right. Yes. So just on this chapter, there's two sets of handouts. So just ask Kimberly to hand out the first set. So in that package of information, you'll be receiving a set of changes to the provisions which relate to the resolutions, and some changes to the appendices and a new appendix.
Just an apology for
Excuse
early.
me. Could I have one?
Just an apology for early departure, Dan. I've got to go to Beckenham for the housing task force.
So this meeting's going till, what are we anticipating? 9 o'clock, right?
Okay, I left it in the cough 8:30.